Keanu Reeves returns as John Wick in the third entry in the series, released on the 15th of May. Produced for a modest budget of $55 million, it's being received very positively by the critics and fans of the series, and it's on its way to be very successful. Currently, as of writing this review, it appears to be bringing in similar box office numbers to the second entry in the franchise. The John Wick series doesn't bring in huge numbers like the Marvel films at the cinema, probably due to its rating, and the action genre has moved into a more niche market. The series really finds most of its audience on DVD and Blu-ray, with the first film and second both bringing in over $30 million each on home video sales. Since the success of the first film, word spread of its high-quality action sequences, and Keanu Reeves' cold and calculated performance has made the character of John Wick a household name. Chad Stahelski, who started out his career as a stunt double, handles the John Wick series. He first started out working on a number of direct-to-video action movies, then became Keanu's stunt double for the Matrix trilogy. He worked his way up the ranks and finally made his directorial debut with the first John Wick. What has made this series so popular with action fans is that Chad knows what the fans want, and thankfully he can direct actors and tell a story. So many modern action films focus just on action, and less focus is put on the performance and story, which is key to keep the audience engaged and invested in the film. So with the movie's story, it takes place directly after Chapter 2. John is running out of time and needs to get out of New York, as he now has a $14 million bounty on his head. He heads to a library and recovers a crucifix necklace and a marker medallion, and needs to locate the director, played by Anjelica Huston, a woman from his past, to give him safe passage to Casablanca. The journey to the director is not an easy one, as many of the other hitmen have located him. He battles his way through and manages to speak with the director, who reluctantly helps him, knowing that she has broken the rules of the high table. Meanwhile, an educator with the high table, played by Asia Kate Dillon, has arrived on the scene and meets with Winston, played by Ian McShane, the manager of the New York City Continental, and the Bowery King, played by Lawrence Fishburne. The educator is not pleased that they have both assisted John Wick after his excommunication, and both are given 7 days to give up their positions or face serious consequences. The educator has her own plans to hunt down John Wick, and personally hires Zero, played by Mark Dacascos. John manages to get to Casablanca and meets Sophia, played by Halle Berry, a former friend and the manager of the Casablanca Continental. He presents his marker medallion, which he retrieved from the library, and asks Sophia to honour it, as it's an unbreakable promise between assassins. She knows she will be breaking the rules if she assists him, but she honours the marker. John has only one option left to get out of his situation. He needs to confront the Elder of the High Table and ask for the bounty to be removed, but it won't come easy. I knew going into John Wick 3 that I would be entertained, as I really enjoyed parts 1 and 2, and the latest entry in the series certainly didn't disappoint on the action front, and it continues the high quality that you come to expect from this franchise. The beauty of the series is that it's a simple story that is so effectively told. It's very much like an 80s action movie. We have so many films or TV shows that try to capture some of that 80s magic, but they often get lost in their attempts to grab that sense of nostalgia, relying on visual elements or just the use of licensed pop songs. John Wick is not about trying to mimic the past, but it takes its cues with its storytelling and its characters. John Wick himself is basically the best assassin ever. He is virtually indestructible, he is a perfect marksman, and can take on many bad guys at once in close combat. He gets beaten up along the way to show that he is human and not a Superman, but he always thinks one step ahead to come out on top. He's a bit like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando. He is driven to save his daughter and won't stop at all costs, and John Wick has a similar situation. He's been spurred on out of retirement due to a gang stealing his car and killing his dog, which was his last connection to his wife, who passed away. John can never really escape his past, and the story of this trilogy really plays on that. He will always be the boogeyman, and he won't stop until everyone who is a threat to him is dead. Halle Berry as Sophia does a great job with the action sequences and plays her part well. Having 2 dogs to use as weapons was a neat idea to further spice up the action. Once you see her commanding these dogs, I just thought of the old video game Shadow Dancer on the Mega Drive. We so need a film with Shadow Dancer now. To further add to the action, we have John Wick battling on a horse and motorbike. These moments are short and sweet and just provide some variety to the sequences. Sophia is only there to help John in his goal to meet the Elder, and doesn't stick around for too long, which I think was a wise move. When they do start throwing in new characters, which is good to expand the world of John Wick, I think once more characters come into play, it could potentially become a bit messy, and the audience are there for John Wick and want to see him kick ass for the majority of the film, and the filmmakers have made the right decision on sticking to his journey, because that's who we are invested in. Seeing Mark Dacascos was an absolute pleasure. A brilliant martial artist who hasn't been on the big screen in a long time, I believe. He's done a lot of direct-to-video action movies as of lately, so it was nice to see him back in a big theatrical movie and new audiences get to see him in action. Keanu Reeves back in the 90s wasn't seen as an action star. Starring in Speed in 1994 really demonstrated that he could easily fit into the genre. But also Hollywood's attitude changed to casting leads in action films. Instead of hiring the muscle-bound stars such as Schwarzenegger and Van Damme, they shifted to casting actors who had years of experience of acting and just trained them to be martial artists or to bulk up for a role or to deploy stuntmen for these big action scenes. Come The Matrix, Keanu showed extraordinary talent and dedication to a role, and learnt how to be a believable martial artist. The John Wick series is just a combination of what Keanu has learned before, and it's executed with a new lick of paint, minus the big CGI effects and wire work. With each sequel to the original film, they introduce more information about the High Table and the ones in power, and they give us a little bit more information about John Wick's past. So far it's given to us in small doses, it never drops big dumps of exposition to flesh out any backstory. With John we are given hints of his past, which I think is ideal. I don't think it would be the right direction to suddenly give us a complete recap of his history and how he became this legendary assassin. I think the more we know, it takes away some of the mystery of who he is. In some cases it's great to know more about the main character, but in the case of John Wick, less is better. John Wick Chapter 3 is probably the best looking of the bunch. Chapter 2 had strong visuals of course, but the opening act with John Wick running through New York City and Chinatown, it clearly takes cues from Blade Runner, and it looks stunning. The visual style is pretty much strong throughout. The battle we see with Wick and Sophia is a tad too dark in some areas, but once Wick returns to New York, the great photography is back in full swing. You can clearly see the production values have increased a lot since the first movie. The movie runs at 2 hours and 10 minutes, which is pretty long for an action film of this nature. The length of it is really down to the fight scenes that I must admit go on for a bit too long. You do feel somewhat exhausted when you come out of it. I think if they had trimmed a number of the fights along the way, I think it would have had a better pace to it. I think its current length is best suited for a Blu-ray director's cut. For a theatrical presentation, it's a bit bloated for its honestly thin storyline. Don't get me wrong, I like the story, but it feels like an 80-minute movie that has been extensively expanded with its fight sequences. I think my favourite action scene, I think the audience as well who I saw it with, was the opening act as once the clocks chime and now John has this bounty on his head, it gets really tense as he attempts to fight his way out of New York. The battle he has with the knives was amazing and brutal at the same time. There is one line in the film that made me laugh and cheer was when John Wick says, "I need guns, lots of guns." Nice homage to The Matrix, but no one else in the cinema reacted. I was so annoyed. A Matrix reference slapped them in the face and they did nothing. If you love action films in general, you will love John Wick, and if you've seen chapters 1 and 2, then I'm sure you've already seen this at the cinema. Continuing the trend of the others, it's violent when it needs to be. It doesn't hold back, and Keanu Reeves, at nearly 55 years old, is still kicking ass and demonstrating that he is a legitimate action star. This isn't the end for John Wick, as part 4 has already been announced, which I can't wait to see. But the biggest challenge for them now is how are they going to outdo themselves with the action scenes. It's going to be tough, but I'm sure they have more tricks up their sleeve. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe to see more retrospectives and commentaries. Also click on the bell to be notified of the latest reviews. If you want access to exclusive videos and to watch my content a few days before it's on YouTube, you can head on over to my Patreon. Thank you very much.